On behalf of the Organic Produce Network, I'd like to thank Forbes Ag Tech for the opportunity to talk a little bit about the organic produce sector, some of the opportunities and the challenges that we have today and going into the future. As a little bit of background, the Organic Produce Network was formed last year, late last year, designed to be a vibrant online resource for the industry by connecting the various components of the industry: growers, shippers, producers, those on the allied side of the equation, service providers, supply chain, as well as those on the processing side. Our objective is to bring these various components together through information, education, and live events. From an education and information standpoint, we have a weekly newsletter, OPN Connect. For those of you that are interested right now, you can text 668-666 with the word organic, and you will get signed up for our weekly newsletter. So I encourage you all to do that. Additionally, we put on 2 events. We have the Organic Produce Summit, a sold-out event that is happening in 3 weeks in Monterey. And we also have another event, the Organic Grower Summit, that'll be held this December in Monterey as well. The organic industry has exploded over the past decade. From a retail standpoint, we have seen double-digit growth every year through this decade. When you look at the most recent numbers coming from a variety of different sources, organic sales, all organic food sales, total about $40 billion a year, or about 5% of all overall food sales. When you look at organic produce, it accounts for approximately 40% of that, or $14 billion of those sales. On an industry average, between 10 and 12% of all produce sold at store level is now organic. The slide up here right now was done by Nielsen. Nielsen skews a little bit lower in their numbers and their data, but the important thing to take away from this slide is how organic produce is driving all organic food sales. 8 of the top 10 items are fresh produce items. When you look at it, obviously, packaged salads at nearly $1 billion in sales is the industry leader. But if you combine the top 3 categories, salads, apples, and the berry category, we are up at $1.5 billion in sales this year. As we look to the future and beyond retail, we have several different areas that we think provide outstanding opportunities for the future growth of organics. When you look at the organic sector, there are a variety of different facets of this industry that are using organics in place of traditional, conventional produce. The vitamin, supplements, and nutraceutical industry is leading this charge. When you look at the beverage industry, juices, waters, we're even now seeing some organic wine that is actually very drinkable come onto the market. Sauces, condiments, jams, jelly, salsas are all being utilizing organic fresh produce as a major component. The health and beauty industry, it is not enough to just have, it's not enough to have cucumbers or coconut They need to be organic cucumbers and organic coconuts because that's what the consumer is looking for. In the snack aisle, we've gone from kale chips and fruit roll-ups to now you have a variety of different vegetables. It could be yams, it could be sweet potatoes that are made into chips. We also have dried fruits that is a tremendous snack, but is also being incorporated into cereals. So again, a major ingredient there. The frozen industry, specifically fruits, is a major user and an ingredient component for organic fresh produce. Baby food. I don't know how many of you have been down the baby food aisle in a supermarket. Everybody, from the boutique producers to the Gerbers of the world, are now using organic fresh produce as part of their product mix. Export. This is one of the most interesting components. When you look at the most recent numbers of the top 5 organic foods export in 2013, all 5 of them were organic fresh produce items. So it's a tremendous opportunity, the ingredient arena for organics. But more importantly, we think there is one more tipping point that will really put organics over the edge. And that's the food service arena. It's coming. For those of you on the East Coast that are familiar with Sweet Green salad shops, and I know they're starting to make their way out here on the West Coast, just a tremendous opportunity for the organic produce arena to increase consumption. If 1 out of every 2 meals is eaten out of home, organic food provides a tremendous opportunity for us. I also want to point out one of my favorite companies here that I've been following, and that's the Organic Coup. The Organic Coup is a Bay Area restaurant chain, 9 stores, that is classified as America's first USDA certified organic fast food. Okay, 9 locations currently, including one at AT&T Park, and in the months ahead, they are scheduled to move up to Seattle. The other interesting component, backstory of the Organic Coup, this is co-founded by 2 former Costco executives. Actually, the woman, Erica Welton, who was responsible for bringing organic milk into Costco, is one of the co-founders of this. So for those of you who are interested, great backstory, you can read more about it, but all of their ingredients, their protein, which is a chicken, the buns, the condiments, and the beverages, everything is organic. So it's, again, providing a tremendous opportunity, and we see that trend continuing to grow. No? All right. There we go. Okay. California is by leaps and bounds the undisputed leader in production and sales of organic produce. As you can see from this graph, California sells more organic, and that is not just produce, that includes dairy and meat, than all of the rest of these other 10 states combined. If you're a believer that as goes California, so will the rest of the nation, again, tremendous opportunities for organic fresh produce going forward. Dialing that down, we also know that California is the leader in overall production of all organic fresh produce. California produces more than 1/2 of all the organic fresh vegetables in the United States, and nearly 2/3 of all the organic fruits and berries that are sold. Dialing it down a little bit further, Monterey County, where we are right now, Santa Cruz, San Benito counties produce nearly 40% of all of California's organic fresh produce production, and nearly 1/4 of the entire U.S. organic fresh produce production. So again, tremendous opportunities, a tremendous foundation for us to continue to grow. At the same time, we do have challenges. We do have challenges, specifically here in the state of California. We've got water issues, we've got labor challenges, and we've got some government things with a new sheriff in town that provides, again, some challenges for us going forward. I'd like at this time to introduce Tom Nunes. I've known Tom for 30 years. His family is one of the leading producers of row crop vegetables marketed under the Foxy brand name across the United States. Throughout this decade, the Nunes Company has been actively involved in the production of organic fresh produce. To give a little bit of an overview about that and answer some questions from you about the growth of organic produce, I'd like to introduce Tom Nunes.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Matt. Hey, reading that makes it look like we're making good decisions on the organic arena. Little bit of history about our company. We were in the organic business in the late 80s and miserably failed. Obviously, there's nothing worse than a good idea too soon, and we were a part of that. In 2005, we made a decision within our organization to get back into the organic arena. We learned from our mistakes in the 80s, and today it represents anywhere between 25 to 30% of the total acreage that we farm. And over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, it's by far been the fastest growing segment within what we do. We currently farm in 3 states, California, Arizona, and Nevada, as well as 2 countries. We do some stuff out of Mexico and then obviously here in the United States. It's totally different than the conventional business in a lot of ways. We don't have the same tools to fight off pests or funguses, but we still have the same challenges when it comes to water, workforce, and strong and healthy ground. So to Matt's point, we continue to work through those challenges to make sure we can keep up with the demand of what we're seeing. The consumer has a choice. The consumer has a vote, and they do that every day when they buy with their dollar. And today they're buying organics. And as farmers, we need to listen. And so we've tried to put ourselves in a situation to supply all segments of healthy fruits and vegetables that are organically grown.
So Tom, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face? You're on the front lines, you're out in the fields every day. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face as you've made that move from conventional to organic?
I would say some of the biggest challenges is when we're talking about our inputs, we're dealing with naturally based products. And there's a finite source. And then there's a demand for that source. There's only so much natural nitrogen out there. There's only so much chicken poop that we convert. We're on the conventional side, it's really synthetic based. So that challenge, understanding the logistics of how to support what we do is very, very important. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, followed by the challenges that I think we've all heard about today. When you talk about water and you talk about labor, and I mentioned we're moving to different geographic locations because it provides a better quality product on the organic side, you have to bring that infrastructure with you. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do, very costly. So those are probably the 2 biggest challenges, Matt, that we face at this time.
Okay. You mentioned you've been involved with organics pretty much all of this decade, for about 8 years now, 7, 8 years. You're at 25% now. In 5 more years, where do you see yourself? Do you see would you ever be 100% organic? Do you see that as an option?
No. I think organics will continue to grow. I think the consumer will make that choice. And obviously there's a big price discrepancy with what you see on the organic side versus the conventional side. I can't begin to tell you how healthy and wholesome conventional vegetables are produced and grown, especially in this particular valley. Definitely there's stewardship on the conventional side, there's strong regulatory climate on the conventional side, and it's a very, very healthy, safe, and great product. With that said, as the consumers continue to evolve, they've chosen to buy more organics. And as that demand continues, we will adjust with it. But not everybody's going to move in that direction. It's just important to keep your ear to the ground and to listen to what the consumer's asking you for.
You've talked previously the cost involved. It costs more to produce an organic crop. Generally speaking, you don't get the yield that you would get in a conventional crop. How is that dynamic changing, and what are you doing to help reduce that price gap between conventional and organic produce?
Good question. We're working with seed companies. I think that's very, very important to how we progress in this arena. Our cultural practices on the farm side continue to improve. Our understanding of what exactly we need from an irrigation standpoint is critical. Being more and more efficient on the harvesting side. It's our belief to try to grow as close to a conventional crop as we can. So that's put the right seed in the right piece of dirt at the right time to give us the best possible crop, therefore making everything downstream more efficient, which would include your harvesting, your cooling, and then obviously your sales and marketing program. But it's going to be difficult because we are dealing with finite supply on particular inputs.
Okay. As you look to the future, what other changes do you foresee? And this is mainly as we've got some of the brightest minds from Silicon Valley down here. Where do you see them fitting into the equation, and where are opportunities for greater technology to help you in the growing?
You know, I think at the end of the day, you know, farmers they're really stewards of the land, and it's a generational business. You know, my father's in the business, my great-grandfather was in the business. I got a son, love for him to have an opportunity to be in the business, but we can't do that without taking care of our natural resources. The technology that we're going to need to be able to protect our ground, to understand really what we need to do on a soil input side, how we need to measure and monitor our water supply, to be able to challenge the state of California at times when they want to regulate our water, be able to do that from an educational standpoint. I think from a real global level, the bright minds in the Silicon Valley can help us, and that translates not just to our business on the organic side or our business on the conventional side, but it helps the nut growers in the San Joaquin Valley. Those problems are going to happen in Nevada. They're going to happen in Arizona. So what we do here to fight those major things by taking care of our ground, and how do we do that? And the water supply is going to translate outside of California. And I think that's a huge opportunity for Silicon Valley and us to work on together.
Great. Do we have any questions from members of the audience? And I think we've got some people with microphones around here. I saw one right here.
Thank you. When you are transitioning from a conventional field to an organic field, are you still producing conventional crops on that field until you've hit the 3-year mark where it can be certified organic?
So we've done a couple different things. There's a 3-year transition period in which no synthetic applications can be applied to that particular piece of ground. So we will grow transitional crops that are sold conventionally. So that's one tack, and we did a lot of that to really understand and learn what we needed to do to do the job on the farming side. Really understand what it took to be a good producer on the organic sector, because it's different than the conventional sector. At the same time, we've utilized fallowing programs or cover crop programs because of the economic benefit. It's cheaper to use that than to take the losses and go ahead and sell it conventionally. But our main focus as we got into it was definitely we want to farm it because we need to understand and learn exactly what we need to do, so when it was organically certified, we can produce a crop that we felt was what the consumer ultimately wanted.
Just curious, I haven't checked out your farm, so I don't know who you're selling to, but I'm curious if you have thoughts on the acquisition and possibility of Whole Foods by Amazon and what that will do to or for organic growers.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, you may want this one better
Go
than
ahead,
me.
I'll let you.
He's a marketing guy, and I've known him a lot more than 30 years. But anyways, no, I tend to think as farmers and growers, a lot of our product ends up in different avenues, including many processors. So sure, that product's going to end up somewhere based upon if that consumer continues to choose. And I think the platform of Amazon is going to be no different. The consumer ultimately chooses. We will do the best we can to produce a healthy, safe product as economical as we can. And the consumer will ultimately choose based upon what that cost structure looks like and what they believe the benefits to be. As automation comes out and baby leaf, baby spinach, spring mix spinach, some of this automation becomes a lot more cost effective and some other things become much more expensive, the consumer's choices may shift. And as farmers, we have to be able to understand what those are and react accordingly.
If I just to kind of jump in, I think that when we talk about the food service arena as well, what is going to help get to that point? And Tom kind of alluded to it here. It's the ability to reach critical mass and consistent supplies on all products. And I think Tom just alluded to it. I think, for example, a spring mix, where now the cultural practices have improved so much. And you're seeing right now there is very, very little difference between the price of an organic spring mix versus a conventional spring mix. As a matter of fact, I think if you look at most retail, you're hard pressed to find conventional spring mix now because of what has happened in the growing of organic spring mix. So I think it's reaching that critical mass and having that consistent supply that will really benefit things.
I'm Paul Brierley from the Yuma Center of Excellence. Just kind of curious, Tommy, when you think about producing organically versus conventionally, which part of the production process do you think needs the most help from technology to help on the organic side? You know, is it disease mitigation, sure, irrigation management?
Sure. I think conceptually, as growers, we look at it two ways. On the organic side, we're feeding the soil. And I think that's the mindset on the organic side. Where on the conventional side, we're actually feeding the plant. And so long term, what's important is soil health on the organic side. And currently, the product mix in the organic arena is of such that we have great rotation. We can rotate lettuces to brassicas, and that provides great soil health. The conventional side of our business does not have that. It's so competitive at this particular point that the lettuce sector dominates and disease is much more prevalent. Long term, if that pattern translates into the organic arena, which I suspect it will, because farmers just keep growing more, right? They never figure out not to do that. Disease will start to become a factor. And we're gonna have to figure out how do we maintain soil health. And every area will be different, but I would tend to believe that will be an area of focus in the organic sector in the future to come.
Any other questions? No?
Perfect.
Okay.
We're
You
good.
good, Paul?
I think we're good. Well, I think I've got a question for you guys. I just would, in closing, I'd really be interested in your view, in kind of where this is all headed, this juggernaut. And I know you said you don't think you'll ever become 100% organic, but how do you discern between, it's certainly not a fad, and it is a trend, but just kind of spell out the next 5 years for us, where you think this all goes.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I don't know the statistics off my head, but I had this really bright professor at Cornell who studied demographics. And the disposable income in the United States versus the rest of the country that we spend on food is remarkably different. So consumers today definitely have choices that other consumers in other countries don't, because the cost of food to us is much different than other countries. And I tend to believe, because we're so efficient in our food supply, that will continue. And the organic arena will continue to grow. I think there's still a lot to learn about organics. I think the jury's still out in terms of, is it more sustainable? Is it better for the environment? There's a lot of statistics that say it is, but it's still relatively new. And we need to go ahead and understand and vet that. But in the short term, it's going to grow. But I do not think the conventional sector is going to shrink. I think consumption of fresh fruit and vegetables is going to grow. I think that's what's really going to happen.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.